Welcome back to the Well-Worn Path. Let's continue our stroll down the road of resiliency. Let me remind you again, Kathy Koch's definition. Resiliency is the ability to recover quickly or readily from difficulties and face challenges with courage. We have talked about Mary and Joseph. We have talked about Mary and Joseph in both Luke's story and Matthew's story. We're going to go back to Matthew now, and we're going to talk about, because now we're actually in this season of Epiphany, arrival, okay, and as an awareness, a discovery, if you will. And let's talk about the Magi, depending on how you want to say it. They're magicians, basically. They are wise men. They're kings, depending on how you want to call it. But they're basically astrologers. Astronomers and possibly astrologers. They were looking for things, and there is some really good stuff on YouTube that talks about they foresaw this coming, that his star, whatever. Matter of fact, the star, there's been some people say, oh, there was an actual star. Could be, fine. Also, but either way, that stars don't move usually. Okay, we're gonna get into some of these things. So let me just talk. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who was to be born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east, and have come to worship him." When the King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. Well, he's disturbed, all right, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. In Bethlehem, in Judea, they replied. For this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. Oh, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went their way. The star they had seen in the east went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. When coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened all their treasures, presented him with gifts of gold, and of incense, and of myrrh, and had been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, and they returned to their country by another route. Let's talk about this. There is so much here, folks. There is so much here. I don't even know if I can unpack it all for you. So these Magi, these stargazers, there's records that show that they had been studying this a very long time. Very long time. And it is estimated that possibly Jesus was 2 years old when this happened. Now we're understanding, and we can go to, I believe it is Deuteronomy, where it talks about how long a journey it was from Babylon to Jerusalem. And it was about 1,400 miles, roughly. And that would be a straight shot. Shortest way to anywhere is the way you know. But that doesn't work when you're in a caravan on a 1,400-mile journey. And we find out from back in Exodus, I can't remember the reference right now, that it took about 4 months, maybe 5 months I think they talked 4 months in Exodus, for the Israelites to go where they were going. So these Magi most probably had at least a 4-month journey, but it probably took a little bit longer because they probably stopped a little bit more than the Israelites did. So we'll just say 4 or 5 months, okay? Gets lost in the rounding. But they did not go straight shot. They went along a river. I think it was the Tigris or the Euphrates River, whatever the river was. But they had to follow that because if you're going to be on a long journey, you want to have access to water, et cetera, et cetera. We always assume it's 3 kings, isn't it? 3 Magi, because of the 3 gifts. And the 3 gifts have significance. I'll let you look that up. We're not going to get into that right now. But it was probably not the 3 Magi. The 3 Magi carrying gold, frankincense, and myrrh by themselves in that part of the world at that time? No. They had a whole caravan. They probably had bodyguards that they had with them too. They probably had a little army, an entourage that protected them along the way. They had camels that had, or donkeys that had food and provisions and everything for a 4-month journey. I used to joke that my mom would pack a little box of snacks to go across town, and we only lived in a little town of 6,500 people. Okay, they had this was a whole entourage, so you're going to need to go on water. But so this was an undertaking because all of a sudden there's this star that appears. It's his star. It's Jesus' star. These are Gentiles. They are Gentiles. They are the unchurched people, if you will. And can you imagine Herod, who killed his family, killed his wives, killed his sons because he was so insecure he was not resilient to things and did not learn to live with courage. The Greek word there, by the way, is parrhesia. It is living with courage and confidence. He did not have that. And so here comes this big entourage into where's he at? Jerusalem. And they come in, and this, you don't sneak in with a big entourage like that. And what do? They go, and he says, oh, bring them. I want to meet him. I want to talk to him. What are you here for? What's this whole deal about? Oh, we're come to find the king of the Jews. Well, see, Herod was a Jew. But he was declared king of the Jews by his boss, so to speak. He didn't like the idea to come. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm the king of the Jews. No, not you. Not you. We came and wanted to see the real one who's the king of the Jews, the Messiah. Well, I got to think about this. So he calls in the chief priests and all these scribes and scholars. Where is this supposed to take place? Bethlehem, about 12 miles down the road. They're almost there. Makes you wonder why God didn't divert them around there, but he would have found out anyway. So Herod says, well, why don't you guys go? And when you find him, come back and tell me. Why didn't Herod just go with them? Would have saved a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble for some other people that we'll get into here in a bit. Why didn't he just go with them? And here's what's really sad. How about the church guys, the pastors, the scholars, the theologians? How come they didn't go? Who went? The Gentiles went. After a 1,400-mile journey, maybe a little bit more, they're tired, they're hot, dirty. We just want a little break here. They go. And the glory of the Lord, that's the star. Whether it was an actual star, it doesn't matter. It was the glory of God. Stars don't move, so this star supernaturally moved. It was the glory of God moving it. God says, here's the place right here. They go. They worship him. In a house. They've moved from the stable. They didn't stay in the stable till he was, went to they returned to Nazareth or whatever. They were in a stable. They went to a house. Finally, everybody left after the census, probably. My speculation here. Now there's a house. Yeah, you can stay there. You can stay in the house. And they find him in a house. So he's not in the stable anymore as an infant baby. If you go to my church, there's two things you're going to notice about our nativity scene. Jesus is not in the nativity scene till Christmas Eve. We don't put him in till Christmas Eve. I hold him hostage I hide Jesus until Christmas Eve. And the other thing is someone gave us a beautiful nativity, and the wise men are off to the side. They don't. Sometimes I move them. It's kind of fun. They don't get put in until Epiphany. Okay. Sometimes I'll move it along a little quicker, but it's the idea that they weren't there in the stable. They came when he was in a house. They found him in a house. He's probably about 4 months old or something like that. We speculate he's below 2 or younger than 2 because Herod had all the babies killed under 2 years old in Bethlehem. Was not millions of kids, by the way. It doesn't matter. One is too many. I get that. But the bottom line is it was probably about anywhere from 10 to 30 kids. If it's your kid, you're going to be upset. Okay, so it doesn't ease it any better. But just to correct our narrative, sometimes it was millions of kids. No, it was not. Tragic still. And God spared them, and they took off, and they went to Egypt. That's another part of resiliency. Now we got to drive with this kid, and they didn't have the little game thing that goes, the little screen in the back of the car, so the kids can watch movies all the way. You talk about resilience. These guys left it behind and said, we're going to embark on a journey that's going to stretch us 4 months on camel. And with this entourage, having to make sure, they probably had a tour guide to make sure everything went the way it was supposed to, I'm guessing. To find Jesus. What do? We have people that won't even drive across town. They won't even, Christmas Eve service. How many of you actually said, to your families, hey, let's go. Let's make Christmas Eve service part of our Christmas. Probably didn't. Yeah, we had other things to do. Whose birthday is it? Whose birthday? Is it yours? It's his. It was a difficult journey. Maybe it had a couple failures along the line. Maybe they had to change some tires on the camels. I don't know. I'm just joking there. You get the idea. Had some breakdowns. Maybe camel or two died. I don't know. I'm guessing it wasn't an easy journey. Had some struggles. Had some challenges. But they made it. And that's what resiliency does. It gets us. When Jesus says to the disciples, we're going to the other side of the lake, guess where you're going? To the other side of the lake. There might be a storm along the way, but with Jesus in the boat, how many remember the song? You're hearing it, aren't you? With Jesus in the boat, you can smile in the storm, smile in the storm, smile in the storm. Okay. We're going to have those moments when the storms come up. Do we have the resilience to keep on the journey? And to make adjustments along the way, and to do what we need to do, and to let God to change us, and to lead us in the way we're supposed to be, and where we're supposed to be. He makes the rough places smooth and the crooked places straight. There's a concept called the dark night of the soul. I've talked to you about it before on Chasing the Wind. It's not evil, it's just dark. You're like, I don't know what's going on here, God. I've been through that dark night of the soul. It's a scary place at times, but you get through it. And it's kind of like the old Irish saying, if you're going through hell, keep walking. You might get through before the devil knows you're there. That's kind of the dark night of the soul. It's one of the best hells you'll ever go through, because you're like, I don't know what's going on here, God. I'm scared. And you learn to trust. And you learn to seek Jesus in the midst of that. These guys had one thing. They kept Jesus their focus. As believers in the days we're living in today, we have got to have the resiliency that says, I am going to keep my eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of my faith, the one who grows my faith into what it should be. We're on the well-worn path. Trust me, all these people I'm telling you about, they were on the well-worn path of their own of following Jesus. And it requires resiliency. That's why I'm glad you're joining me on this path, because I want to instill some resiliency in you to keep going. God's developing you. He's growing you. He's making you the person he wants you to be. And let me tell you something. When you find Jesus, what did they do? They rejoiced. They were overjoyed, the NIV says. But I love, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And then what did they do? And then they went another way home. You always got to be on the next journey. We're on another path. They went home another way. Can you imagine Herod? He goes, go find those guys. And they went on their way. And went home another way. Folks, stay on the path. Stay on the path. And let God build resiliency in you. We're going to take a little break. I'll see you next time. I'm Pastor Mark. Grace and peace.